Yovissen Parasuraman, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're known as YoviCooks on Instagram, something we'll get into in a second. I really wanted to talk to you because, one, I've been to Amigo. I really liked it. I've loved the experience there. I've loved the food, and I tend to bring my friends. But more so, I remember when I came to the restaurant last year or the year before, I met you, and then I remember meeting your brothers. So there's Kavinan, the elder one, you're the second one, and there's Yovissen.
Exactly, yes.
There's normally one of you who welcomes guests. That tends to be you. Yovissen is behind the bar. Kavinan is upstairs, handling guests and welcoming them into the restaurant. Let's go back to your childhood. What's been the schooling like? What's been the training like? Because it seems like each one of you has a field of specialization, if I may call it so.
Yes. So going back to my childhood years, I would say I was always a very undecisive person, I would say. Not very sure what he wanted to become, what career he wanted to get into. There was a moment where I was hesitating between economics or getting into psychology. Mm-hmm. And I found myself having to choose at the last years of high school, And then I decided, why not join the family business, I already had some experience in it and I enjoyed, I enjoyed this vibe of hospitality. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the behind the scenes as well, in terms of cooking, in terms of meeting guests and greeting guests. And I love this whole vibe. Right. So it was only a month or 2 months before I was actually about to finish my A-levels, mm-hmm. that I thought to myself, you know what, let me get into hospitality, And despite having a huge liking for psychology, I said, you know what, let me choose this, Right. and I went for hospitality.
And you trained in France and then you moved back to Mauritius.
Yes, so I had 3 years of, let's say, hospitality, where we did a lot of academics, a lot of training, mm-hmm. and we also had a lot of internships as well. So I did go to one of the very nice hotels in Mauritius to do my training. Mm-hmm. I went to Royal Palm, I went to Oberoi, I went to Sud, and I also went to do my training for 6 months in Lyon at Permalloo. Mm-hmm. So these were really helpful for me as well.
So you said earlier before we started recording podcast, it was a family business because your granddad founded it, and then your dad inherited it. Your dad, who sadly passed away, and then it was you, your brothers, and your mom. What was the family dynamic like? Because what I find fascinating is that the three of you actually work together.
Yeah, which is very surprising to some people. And they always question me how do you guys work together? Aren't there any fights? And the reply is, yes, we fucking fight. I can swear, right?
You can.
Okay. You're going to beep it or something?
No.
Okay.
If we have to beep it, we'll beep it. If we don't have to, no filters.
So yeah, like you were saying, my grandfather actually had a bar downstairs, mm-hmm. Which is a current bar.
Right.
But we didn't have a restaurant upstairs. And after that, my father was working actually at the bar. And that's when my father actually met my mom, because my grandparents on my mom's side went to the bar and they met this guy, with one earring, and they were like, yes, we saw this guy and all, and my mom married my father back then. Then my father decided to expand the business, mm-hmm. and he made the restaurant upstairs. And after that, it was very successful back then. We've had a lot of celebrities even come to the restaurant. Mm-hmm. There was Jacques Chirac, who is the current president of France, came. We had several other celebrities. And there was an unfortunate moment where my father passed away. Mm-hmm. And my mom was sort of bombarded into hospitality, right. without even having any knowledge about it.
How old were you guys then?
So we were very young. My little brother was 1 year old. I was 6 years old, mm-hmm. Now 26. Mm-hmm. And my elder brother was 9 years old. Yes. Right. So it was a very, growing up with that was very a challenge as well, There were some aspects that my elder brother, for example, took in terms of, being the man of the family. Mm-hmm. Me growing up as well, my little brother growing up. It was a very challenging experience, even till this day. But eventually, things fall back in place. We understand life differently. We become very we value, business, family. And I think that's also what brought us all to very close together in that sense. So even me with my brothers. And yes, definitely we do fight a lot, but we always know as well how to set the boundaries between personal life and business.
Right.
Yeah.
I can imagine it must be such a pride for your mother, looking back at raising the three of you without obviously your dad being in the picture. It must have been hard. Do you, your brothers and your mom sit down and reflect on the journey so far?
Definitely. And I also do have this habit, which I have, is I journal a lot. And I tend to keep the dates, of when we've had this conversation, when this happened.
Right.
And every time I check back at those dates and I'm like, oh yes, we had this conversation in 2015, and look at us now. We're building this, we're doing this, we've reached that, But yeah, we definitely have like a lot of conversations going onto that, on this type of topic. And we are also very happy where we've reached, and we also have a lot to reach as well.
Right. I hear you as a businessman, but also I sense a lot of entrepreneurship here, right? With you having more of a niche into baking, your brother into cocktail making, the other brother into hospitality. The hospitality venture is very clear. But as an entrepreneur, like, have you come across any ups? I'm sure there's been ups and there's been downs, but have you come any defining moments throughout this whole journey of business?
So I would say that one of the most challenges we faced is mostly to do with, growing up in this field. We were very accustomed to always giving 100%, in everything we do, and being very perfectionist with what we do.
Can you imagine?
Exactly. And sometimes it becomes extremely hard when you want to keep this benchmark, and for some reasons with different reasons that you cannot reach those benchmarks, it becomes very stressful,
Right.
And we've learned as well that, there are some times where you just have to do with what you have and find a solution around it, But definitely there have been a lot of challenges. The COVID, for example, was a big challenge, where we were so used to having this, tourists coming, Mauritians coming to the restaurant, and suddenly all out of a sudden there's new laws which stops you from doing your work. So that was a very big challenge. And I remember back then I was like, okay, what do I do? And I also just finished university, and as I told you before, I was always a bit undecisive on what I wanted to do. So I decided to start a blog, a food blog on Instagram. And at that time, my cousin actually asked me, like, could you do a carrot cake for me? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not,
Okay.
And she was asking me, how much should I pay for you? I'm like, no, I'll take it for free, And then she recommended me to her friends.
Right.
And those friends started asking me, will I make a carrot cake for them? I'm like, whoa, what's going on, So then I started taking pictures with my phone, and started to post on Instagram. And I realized I was getting more orders, People were going mad, we want cake, and then I started doing the same thing, putting pictures. And there was one day where I decided, maybe I should put a picture of myself to show the people following me, who I am, and to give a sense of trust as well,
Right.
And then I did that, and as my following started increasing. And I remember one specific day, which was the most shocking till this day. I did a very, I would say, innocent video, or a very simple video, of me just putting cupcakes in a box.
Okay.
And I put it on TikTok, And my little brother was always telling me, yeah, maybe try TikTok, TikTok has a really big...
It's more organic, maybe.
Yeah. And I put this video, and out of random, overnight, I had almost 250,000 views on that. And people were just commenting and commenting and commenting. I was like, whoa, what is happening, And I checked my WhatsApp, and I just had messages after messages,
Wow, because you had your number on there.
Yeah, I had my number on that. And then I realized, okay, damn, that's very positive, So yeah, then I did this for like a few years, And I then got approached by brands wanting to collaborate with me. So that was a very interesting part.
I love this story because it does feel like it's come full circle. You were speaking about Imperfection. I went to Japan last year, and I love Japan for how they pride themselves in being perfectionist. But even then, I came across a concept called Wabi-sabi, which is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the art of imperfection and accepting how, despite the imperfection, you can still accept the state of things. In London, there are different craft workshops where they break a ceramic pot in pieces and get you to stick them together and appreciate the beauty of it.
Yes.
As a perfectionist, having gone through this whole journey, realizing that you wanted to still keep the standard, not much can be done. Because when I look at what you do, you bake, you create, your Instagram feed is quite aesthetic, the pictures are quite professional, you help in the restaurant. How do you achieve the perfect balance, the perfect imperfect balance?
So I think I've learned a lot as well during the past years about that. Like you've said, I create, and I realized I was a very creative person. And my brothers as well are very creative, my mom as well. And it took me a moment of reflection to actually think about that. And I thought that, being a creative is great, but sometimes you get lost along the way of always wanting to be perfect and never being happy with what you create, And it took me some time to reflect on that. And I realized, it's either I'm 100% creative, or I can set some structure around it,
Okay.
Doing what I think is best, and going with that, Yeah.
Financially, creating something demands just time, but also financial resources. Is there any message at all to any aspiring entrepreneur watching you? Because I hear that inheritance from your dad, and that's obviously helped you in terms of having a bit of a edging step in terms of starting maybe. But if someone were to create something or were to start thinking about a business venture, how do you go about the financial constraints? I'm sure during COVID, that was perhaps one lesson that you had to face or had to overcome. Definitely.
It's all the financial side is very important, part of creating and starting something. I've even before doing the YoviCooks thing, I always wanted to create something new. I always wanted to build something up from my own. And it only took me since COVID to give me a wake up call, start now,
Right.
And I know it can sound a bit challenging. It can sound a bit difficult to do, in terms of that. But what I did, for example, on my side was just start small, start with whatever resources you have, if you don't give it a risk, if you don't put that risk, you cannot expect anything to happen as well.
Right.
So on that side, even with the baking business, I started very small. I did with what I could. I didn't take an overly exaggerated amount of orders. I did with what I could, and eventually, it builds up from there. Yeah.
So dream big, start small.
Yeah.
We'll get into the food industry in a second and maybe the hospitality ventures in Mauritius. One of the things that you mentioned, which I thought was quite interesting and somewhat of an insight maybe into how your brain works. You mentioned your fascination for psychology.
Yes.
Obviously, your path got a bit rerouted along the way. Why psychology? And I think tying that into the journaling part, which is quite interesting, the need to pin down your thoughts, psychology, what's going on there in your brain.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Actually, it's the first time someone actually asks me that.
Okay.
The reason behind why I'm so interested and fascinated by psychology is growing up, I was very much of I don't know if that's a correct term, wallflower. Yeah. So I was always the silent one observing, also being the middle child and seeing my brother my elder brother getting so much responsibilities, seeing my older brother being all free and
Pampered.
and I was just like on this observation point where I was just looking at people around me, and again, very quiet, just observing and questioning. And as I grew up as well, without a father, you are faced with a lot of challenges, and I indirectly questioned all these aspects and reason why does someone react that way, why does someone behave that way, and I started reading a lot of psychology books, being very interested about all that, and even till today, it really intrigues me, when I meet people and question like the reasoning why they act like that, why, it's
Right.
sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming, but yeah.
Do you feel like as part of your creative hobbies and interests and your work as well, there comes a time when you just need to maybe have your quiet corner, unwind, process your thoughts?
Definitely. And I tend to be very different compared to my brothers in terms of that. I can be with a group of people, a group of guests, and talking and being very chill and sounding very extrovert. But I realize that, I always need to cool off and be alone. I just need that quiet moment.
Yeah.
But everyone just keeps quiet, leaves me alone, and yeah. In that sense,
I'm smiling because that's very much me.
Yeah.
Even we both you had your brother's wedding, I had my sister's wedding, and it was amazing. We both had good times. We were just debriefing about it. But at some point throughout the wedding, I just needed, even for 10 minutes, I just needed to go upstairs and like have my have like 10 minutes to myself. We are twins, so my sister has by default. I've always been the extrovert one, and she's been the introvert one.
Yes.
But over time, our energies also just switched. And there's a really good book. I love it. It's called Quiet, the Power of Introverts, and it talks about how introverts have this mix of like extrovertedness and introvertedness. Actually, everyone has it to themselves.
That's funny that you're saying that, is because I came across another word now. We all love putting ourselves in the categories. Ambivert, exactly.
You watched the same podcast, maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
Stephen Bartlett.
Because I always found myself, okay, how can I be an introvert, but I also do like being an extrovert from time to time.
Right.
But sometimes I need to close up, in my bubble. But then I realized, okay, I maybe I am an ambivert, Yeah.
I think it's important that you raised it, because I think in this world where everything is going so fast, like technology, I post always like delayed stories. I never post in the moment. Like if you've seen me like posting or tagging a place, that's because I've eaten that, I'm gone. But like in this world where like you could literally be somewhere and the whole world knows about it, I just feel like it does get overwhelming sometimes. Like I just need to switch off. And you're right. Like ambivert maybe is the new term that's been coined, but I love like reaching that balance of, I've had my peak in energy. I just need to like cool down now and like have my remotedness to myself.
Yeah, definitely.
And then switching gears, and let's focus maybe on the hospitality industry in Mauritius for a second. As someone who's been, you've been one of the pioneers in terms of being part of like the Amigo venture, you working with your brothers, thinking about maybe the technology aspect, social media, and bringing YoviCooks within the this embedded question. What do you think is lacking within the hospitality industry in Mauritius? One of the observations I've certainly had, we were talking about maybe the lack of labor force or talented labor maybe in Mauritius. It might be a bit of a harsh statement, but I do feel like within the hospitality venture, we've had so many people leaving the island to work on cruises, and we don't necessarily have people coming back. You work with quite a lot of people within the restaurant or as part of the business. Is that something you would share, or do you think there's something else that's really preventing the hospitality industry from even developing further?
So, that's a very interesting question. I remember being in the hospitality, even like back when I was 15 years old, helping and giving a hand at the restaurant, or like, after school hours, going to the restaurant, giving always like my brother or my mom would like push me to get into, get yourself out there in front of people, which was very difficult, back then. But then, yeah, basically saying that, I did this in high school and I've observed a different even type of labor back then, a different type of customer as well, I feel like comparing it to now, it's definitely different,
Okay.
And I don't want to say it's positive or negative, but it's different, There has been a lot of shifts, even from COVID, things have changed after COVID, The hospitality before COVID was not the same afterwards, I think that it took some something like COVID to shake things up, and it made also I feel it brought a lot of dynamism to entrepreneurs, to rethink their way of thinking, and not take things for granted, But definitely after COVID, I realized as well that a lot of good labor in Mauritius are also seeking for something better elsewhere, which they cannot find in Mauritius, which makes sense. But when you think about it as an entrepreneur, it becomes even of a greater challenge when you do not have the labor you wish to have.
Do you sense that this is something where we'll need to bring in more foreign labor into the country to cater for those gaps?
So I feel like right now this is already the current situation, whichever business you go to, or you're going to get a coffee, or you're going to get a restaurant meal or something. Sometimes you're surprised because you're speaking to the person, or the person serving you in Creole, and they speak to you in English or French, and then you realize, oh damn, there's a lot of foreign workers in Mauritius. To be honest with you, this has never bothered me. I feel that if this is the change that's supposed to happen, it will eventually be a rough path at the beginning, but it will eventually fall back in place.
Right. So finding for us to go back to the right ratio, maybe.
Yeah.
And what about food wastage within the industry? I feel like as a consumer myself, especially if you go into a hotel, I like to change my mindset maybe, but I am guilty of somehow wanting to try everything then leaving it there. But I do feel like food wastage is a big issue within the industry. And you might be even more critical of it from the perspective of I'm helping, or I'm contributing towards the preparation of food, and it's being wasted. Yeah. So you kind of feel like your efforts obviously is not being rewarded in a way. What are your thoughts on that?
There's definitely a lot of areas where it's very difficult to control that, But I feel like there's also on the other hand, there are different ways that the hospitality sector has tried to take action on food wastage.
Right.
One simple example is I've been working in doing my internships in hotels in Mauritius, and I remember a particular hotel who had their menu set in a way where there was a normal portion and the price for that, and then there was also this smaller portion, option for this meal, which was put in place so that people had the option to, go for a smaller meal instead of taking a larger meal and wasting, in that sense. But I feel like this will definitely be one of the challenges we'll face.
Going back to Amigo for a second, your specialty is seafood. Do you think at some point you would want to tap into something else, or is seafood very much at the very core of the heart of the restaurant?
I feel like seafood is at the very much core of Restaurant Amigo. We've been operating for 40 years. 40 years of specializing in seafood, because this is what we do best, And maybe there will be some changes in menu and maybe adding some things, or maybe removing some items, But at the end, I think it's we do what we do best,
Right.
Yeah.
What I find interesting as a Mauritian is that we are an island, and if you want to put the statistics into perspective, we are allowed, I think, to fish throughout 2.3 million of kilometers squares throughout the EEE, so the exclusive economic zone, and yet we are a net importer of fish. you are obviously a small restaurant, very successful. You do emphasize and make sure it's always fresh seafood. I remember coming to a restaurant and one of your waiters came up to us and presented us not even the catch of the day, but different kind of fish, and gave us the chance to maybe even see it visually before we made up our mind. How do you ensure the fresh supply? How do you ensure that remains very much the core and the focus of a restaurant?
I think we've been operating for a lot of years, always with the same concept, because this is why customers keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Even tourists who've been to Mauritius like 5 years back want to come back and discover the same food, seafood. And we've always kept this concept of keeping it small, in the sense where it's very convenient for us having Cap Malheureux beach by Amigo.
Right.
And we get all our supplies from the fishermen there, As soon as they're fishing, they get a catch, they bring it to Amigo, and we check, and we're like, okay, let's take this,
So you've kept kind of a sustainable ecosystem.
Yes.
And still supporting the local fishermen.
Exactly. I think for us, what fits best is that, in terms of this artisanal fishing and supporting the fishermen as well, in that sense, yes.
Right. And then there's a new venture, Nenban.
Yes. So there's a new concept that we created, which is called Nenban.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the definition by any chance?
No, I was going to ask you why the name. I gathered maybe there was kind of a South Asian touch to it, but
yes,
I couldn't pick it. It sounded Malaysian to me.
Okay. So basically, it's South Indian.
Okay.
South Indian. And Nenban translates to friend or friends in Tamil.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. I'm learning new words.
Yes. So then you can relate it to amigo, which means friend as well.
In Spanish?
In Spanish, yes. Mm-hmm. So we came up with this, okay, why don't we keep the same, because it's the same company, same group, and let's keep a little bit of amigo into it, And so Nenban is an Indian restaurant with some influence of South Indian cuisine into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's honestly, we opened 1 year ago, and it's been very positive. And I feel like it's a very a fresh look on Indian restaurants in Mauritius, because we bring a lot of this modern touch to it, and we bring a bit of dynamism, we bring a bit of fresh flavors, fresh ideas to the restaurant, which I think a lot of people will love.
Okay, I haven't been to that one yet, so yes. that's going to be on my list. Is there a plan to maybe tap into other cuisines at some point?
We've been discussing with my brothers about that, but for now, I think I'll keep it private.
Just for these two. Maybe if I were to rephrase this question, do you think at some point as an entrepreneur, like there's always the question of dreaming big, dream bigger and bigger and bigger. Amigo has always been a family business. You wanted to keep it small, but at the same time, you have the bakery part, which I think you're working on.
Yes.
There's the bar, there's the restaurant. It kind of feels like 3 in 1 or 3 under 1 roof kind of place. And then there's Nenban. I hear the aspiration. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. Do you think at some point there's a risk of not aiming too high, but aiming too big, that you then lose control of the things that you, for instance, would be doing on a day-to-day, like the management or being in touch or being in the kitchen itself? Do you think at some point there's a risk of losing that personal touch?
That's a very nice question. And I've actually been thinking about this ideology, And I think this is where my brothers and I have a very good balance in terms of our own personalities.
Right.
My elder brother, so Kavinen, he has this tendency to go crazy in terms of ideas, going towards this idea, this crazy aspiration, doing this really creative and really interesting type of person, personality.
Mm-hmm.
And then there comes me where I'm like, okay, calm down, let's think this through, let's put some structure, And sometimes I can be a little not daring enough, not risk-taking enough, but he compliments me on that side. And sometimes he can be the other type, and I'm the one who puts structure. And my little brother is a mix of us too,
Okay.
And yeah.
So you got like the I don't know if that's a middle child syndrome, because I was like, wait, the elder one tends to be like the more leading into some responsibilities, and maybe you would have the more creative one. But I kind of sense the switch of energy here.
Yeah.
You tend to be more the one of putting the structure.
Yeah. The one who's a bit more like planning, organizing first, then taking action.
As an entrepreneur, like how important is it to have that forward thinking in terms of not risking it all too much?
As an entrepreneur, you always, I'll talk for me rather. For me, like I always love having everything planned and organized. I think you'll notice when you contacted me for it, I was like, do I have to prepare anything? Should I, have an idea of what the questions would be?
Yeah, which is completely normal.
But sometimes I find myself too organized or wanting to plan too much, But the thing is, like, what I've also come to realize is that there are unexpectations, things which happen just suddenly, and you like, it wasn't planned, So how do you react to that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it comes really to how reactive you can be. All comes to like, okay, how do you react in a situation?
Right.
What decisions do you take in this moment? When I'm thinking about like the next day, we have to make a decision now. What do we do? And I think that's a very important aspect of being an entrepreneur for me.
Having learned the lesson, it paves the way for future situations. And
Exactly.
Yovi, what can we wish you for the future?
Good luck, I guess.
More restaurants, more good food. Thank you for sharing the journey of Amigo so far. It's been an absolute pleasure for having been to the restaurant personally, but also I think for me, family is always, it's as huge and like the most important thing in my life. And it's been beautiful and somewhat endearing, like watching the three of you. Obviously, I don't know you that personally, but like having been there a few times. And I know among our friends, like when we were like friends who live in Cap Malheureux, one of my best friends does. And whenever we've been to restaurants, we'll be like, oh, who's who? And we'll pick on like what you do. It's quite fascinating to see you guys having come a long way in the absence of your dad, who inherited the restaurant, but having kept family at the very core of what you do. It's been beautiful to watch, and I can only wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully to more restaurants and to more new cuisines, but thank you for elevating the hospitality venture in Mauritius.
And thank you very much for having me today, Jemma. And maybe for next podcast, why not?
Maybe. I mean, we've been trying to get the three brothers on the platform, but I hope you had fun. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Jemma.